What you are about to watch is a heated moment from South African politics that has everyone talking. President Cyril Ramaphosa came under intense pressure as members of parliament fired tough questions at him, while opposition parties, including Julius Malema and the EFF, launched a fierce attack on his leadership and government's performance. The debate quickly turned into a political battleground, with MPs challenging the president on key issues affecting ordinary South Africans. From the economy and unemployment to service delivery and accountability, the pressure continued to mount as opposition leaders demanded answers. What makes this exchange so important is that it reflects the growing frustration felt by many South Africans who want stronger action on the country's biggest challenges. Supporters of the president argue that progress is being made, while critics believe government is moving too slowly. As the political temperature rises ahead of future elections, confrontations like this are becoming increasingly significant because they reveal the deep divisions that exist within South African politics. Welcome to Mikael Podcast TV. For the latest South African news, politics, and analysis, make sure you subscribe to Mikael Podcast TV, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Now, let's watch the explosive parliamentary exchange and see what unfolded. Julius, roll the video in.
President Jacob Zuma nabaphulaphula emakhaya athi eMaswati cha ayikusisiyala asiphumeleli. We can never pass this budget with such lofty ideals. Number one, it grow the economy. You can't grow the economy, Mr. President. You don't have that power under a neoliberal economy. And a neoliberal economy for us Africans become a neo-colonial economy. Because once you liberalize your economy, you know it yourself. You will reduce tariffs, you are going to deregulate, you are going to rely on Forex, which is why you are going to tell us about attracting foreign direct investment. When you do those things, you are going to shut down your local industries in favor of external ones. You are going to face unemployment. Let's look at the textile industry. It's the industry that we're teenagers in the 80s. That's what supported us. Our mothers worked in factories and firms. From Bramfontein all the way to Doronfontein, past Johannesburg, GP, those were textile industries. From Cape Town all the way to Mowbray, all these areas are ghost towns because after 94, the first decade of 94, when we neoliberalized, we lost at least 150,000 jobs in the textile industry because we lowered tariffs from around 30% to 2 point something. How did we do that when we knew that's the backbone, especially for women in this country? Now, I want to give you two 36-year-olds, one is now 38, Thomas Sankara and Captain Traore. If you really want us to affirm this budget with the proviso that it will grow the economy, throw off the yoke of neoliberalism. Put South Africans first in terms of the economy. Sankara has a phrase. He says, we choose between champagne for all and water for few. Or champagne for few and water for all. I had to ask the young people in my party. Clearly, the ace of spades has been flowing in high echelons in this country. Because we can't provide water for all. And even the water we provide has no quality. It breaks your heart to go to a municipal level. And you see how drinking water is mixing with sewage. And we don't even have a plan to clean that water. We've done the worst under your 2 terms, actually. Even this bottled water is scary for me because the South African Bureau of Standards role has been shrinking and shrinking. We don't know how much plastic we are drinking in this water. So you moved us from water that was deemed the best in 94. Tourists who came here said, South Africans, why drink bottled water? You have the best water, it is clean. We are now reliant on bottled water, which is not even properly checked if it is up to standard in terms of the plastic that's melting into the water. Now, look at infrastructure. And there's nothing you can do about it, really. You can give us lofty promises. I don't know if we should even call it infrastructure. We've become a country of potholes. in big cities like Johannesburg and Pretoria, so how does the rural area look? If that's how it looks there. Unemployment, I'm only looking at one category of young people, 24 to 34. It's sitting at 40%. And then you are telling us you're going to grow the economy. How? Because though we are reliant on borrowing and we are reliant on foreign direct investment, when they come here to invest, they give you conditions that suit them, that do not suit us, which is why we have such a high rising unemployment of young people. So how will you grow this economy? Another quotation that I like by Sankara still. Sankara says Africa is not developing because Africans are not mad enough. Well, I'm looking at you. I don't think we are mad enough to deliver the growth of this economy. Your 2 terms have not assured me that you will, because you refuse to decouple yourself from neoliberalism. You still want to believe in macroeconomics. Like we are told now that the GDP is growing, actually amongst its highest. We are told inflation is steady, actually amongst its lowest. See, the dilemma of a macroeconomic economy, which is a neoliberal economy, is that it works for multinational corporations, not for the poor. Because despite that GDP and that inflation, the cost of living is high and it's escalating. Lord, in your tenure, Mr. President, you have managed to do the impossible. You shut down Vilakazi Street. It's a ghost town. Township economy is at a grinding halt. People don't have money. So these small and medium businesses are dying at the expense of transnational corporations. How are you going to grow the economy when you are championing a neoliberal agenda? The two don't mix. Look at the fiscal policy that we champion. Sure, see the contradictions. That's the law of neoliberalism. It is riddled with contradictions for the poor. We are told that our personal income tax system is one of the most progressive ones in the world. But it relies on regressive taxation. Regressive taxation are taxes that continue to tax the poor more while the rich are getting richer. Like VAT, like fuel levy, taxing alcohol, taxing cigarettes. The people are so poor, you're punishing them for the little comfort they're trying to get. Taxing sugar. While multinationals are doing what? Tax evasion. They are transferring their profits abroad without us taxing them adequately. They are price misinvoicing. We are not building the SARS structure that taxes corporates adequately. We are focusing on building the SARS structure that's taxing individuals. So to work in South Africa is a crime because you bear the brunt of taxation. We lose annually, Mr. President, from illicit financial flows. This loose corporate tax system we are running, an estimate of at least 100 billion rands. And that's in the cigarette industry. Only, I'm not talking the other areas. Imagine if we halved that, how much difference it would make in the tax brackets of ordinary people. We will lower taxation. You want MK to confirm this budget? Talk to us about lowering taxation of individuals. Talk to us about lowering personal income tax and taxing multinationals. Then we shall stand here and say, oh, the African in the African National Congress is alive. It has come back. So we'll support you. At the moment you are running a National Congress, the African is dead. So we can support this because we are standing for Africans. And then you tell us you are going to dismantle criminal syndicates. How? The criminal syndicates are in your house. How are you going to dismantle them? They are in your living room. How will you dismantle them? They are under the sofa. They are in the constitutional and the legal system. They are in the municipalities. They are in the police. I mean, in the defense force. whole caches of arms go missing. How are we running a defense force where people can just break in and steal weapons?
Order, honorable member.
How are we going to do
Honorable
that? So,
Chabalala.
for us,
Can you just take your seat? There's a member who wants to raise a point of order.
the seat.
Order. Honorable Chabalala, there's a seat here.
It's on the other side.
Okay, we will provide for the other seat. Honorable Nyai.
Honorable Speaker, I rise on Rule 85. The honorable member casts expression that in the House of the President there are criminals in it.
Honorable member, thank you very much. I've noted your point of order, but my understanding, and that can be checked, is that the "you" was in reference not to an individual, but generally. Honorable member, you can continue.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You know, these interruptions do not actually tamper with my trail of thought because it's not me speaking, it's ancestors. So let's continue. Mr. President, if you really want us as MK Party to support this budget, Africanize it. Get in touch with your Afrocentric side. I know you lost it long ago, but it's not a lost cause. You can still get it back. Gwaza mkhonto gwaza. Gwaza mkhonto gwaza. Vote MK Party, vote. Vote MK Party, vote. Amandla Progressive Alliance, Amandla. Amandla.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable leader.
Deputy Minister of Police, Deputy Minister Nzuza, who's Deputy Minister of Home Affairs as well. And we are joined by the Director Generals and the NetJoin team, technical team that is supporting the IMC. Let me take this opportunity to thank you for responding to our call as the Interministerial Committee on Migration. The President of the Republic of South Africa constituted the committee to coordinate the government's work on the issues of migration in South Africa and oversee the implementation of various interventions as outlined by the President in his address to the nation last Sunday. So we almost 7 days after his address. The IMC is led by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, constituted by various departments, namely Home Affairs, South African Police Service, Small Business Development, Department of Defense, Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Department of Employment and Labor, Basic Education, Higher Education and Training, Department Minister in the Presidency as well. And we've also now made a request to the Presidency so that we can have transport, DTIC, social development to be added into the IMC based on the work that we've been doing and the areas that we need to be able to cover. A lot of work has been done in implementing the various interventions that the President announced in his address to the nation last Sunday. Today, we are here to share with you the progress made in the execution of this important task. And again, just to indicate that this is work in progress and will continue to brief the nation every time we make this progress. You will recall that the President outlined the government's 5-point strategy to manage irregular migration, which includes strengthening of our border security, reiterating the constitutional principle of the rule of law, stamping out corruption in the migration system, cracking down on violence and lawlessness, and refining our legislative framework. This plan and approach also entail collaboration with fellow African nations to forge a broader, more cohesive response to migration challenges across our region and the continent. This approach is a unified effort designed not only to restore public confidence, rule of law, protect our borders, but to actively support the safety and well-being of all our communities. We want to reassure all South Africans that government is firmly in control and actively managing the challenge of illegal migration. The Border Management Authority has developed advanced technology such as drones and body-worn cameras to intercept those who were attempting to enter South Africa illegally. Following the President's address on Sunday, the BMA and its stakeholders have on Wednesday, the 10th of June 2026, held an anti-corruption awareness campaign at Oshoek, port of entry. This is the entry that is between South Africa and Eswatini border to proactively address issues of corruption within the ports. In addition, the BMA and other law enforcement agencies have instituted static checkpoints or roadblocks at key corridors leading to the critical ports such as Beitbridge to ensure effective interception of anybody attempting to enter South Africa illegally. Currently, there is heightened vigilance across all ports of entry in all the three modalities, one in terms of land, air, and sea. Well, sometimes we think that when we talk about borders, we're talking about land only. So all the borders that which we call ports of entry to South Africa or exiting South Africa. This was demonstrated by the recent interceptions of 9 Bangladesh nationals at OR Tambo International Airport who attempted to enter South Africa with fraudulent visas. The interception of ABBA, a precursor for Maindrax, with a street value of just below 1 billion rands at Beitbridge is another case in point in terms of the work that has been done. Through intelligence-led operations, roadblocks, compliance inspections, and multidisciplinary actions involving various government departments, we continue to identify, arrest, and process those who are in the country unlawfully, and also those who are actually trying to smuggle things into the country. We've seen as well at the Durban ports of entry, as well those activities there in the last few weeks. We have intensified our multidisciplinary law enforcement operations, which are led by the Deputy Ministers of Home Affairs, Police, and Labor and Employment. Through these initiatives, we have visited business premises and communities in the Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Gauteng to respond to community concerns and transgressions on immigration and labor laws by employers. On the 3rd of June, in Mossel Bay, Western Cape Province, an inspection was conducted at a residential estate comprising multiple active construction sites, which resulted in arrest of 15 foreign nationals for migration-related contraventions. In KwaZulu-Natal, a multidisciplinary night operation was conducted on the 4th of June at 2 clothing manufacturing facilities operating at the same site in the Riverside Industrial Area in Newcastle, which resulted in the arrest of the business owner who had illegally employed undocumented migrants who were also arrested on scene. A similar operation happened on Friday here in Tshwane. 35 were arrested, also affected, or 35 arrests were also affected, including 2 employers who were arrested for employing undocumented foreign nationals. This is some of the work that is being done, and it's going to intensify and expand as we continue. But this does not mean that, because what we are reflecting is the work that has been done by the DMs, as we have said previously and announced, and other work continues by law enforcement agencies across the country. In the past month alone, just to indicate this one, more than 7,400 illegal immigrants have been arrested by the SAPS for contravening the Immigration Act. And since the 1st of January, law enforcement agencies or operations conducted across the country have resulted in the arrest of more than 40,000 illegal immigrants in the country. This is a demonstration that government is not turning a blind eye to illegal immigration, and we are intensifying our efforts to bring it under control. In addition to all this work, across the country in the few weeks that we have talked, where marches have started and all that, 143 arrests were effected, including for inciting violence. On Thursday, as ministers and deputy ministers from national government, we visited eThekwini. We visited 2 sites in that area, the Che Guevara Street, where in front of Home Affairs, we had about 457 individuals who were sleeping on the streets. And then again, we visited the Sherwood Park area, where at the time we were there, it was 5,000. We are informed today that the citizens, Malawian citizens who have arrived there are now amounting to 7,000 who are there waiting for the Sherwood. They're actually asking for reparation. At Che Guevara, the IMC communicated the government stance that South Africa does not have refugee camps, and there is no intention to create camps, even on a temporary basis. And that's a message that we continue to carry. So we should not be expected to carry on and establish refugees camps. It's a policy decision, it's a legal decision that we have taken as a country that we will not create refugee camps. And that, because of that policy stance and decision that has been taken, even temporarily so, we do not intend to create such. So accordingly, the people who are legally in South Africa were advised to either reintegrate into the communities in which they have been residing, and they will be protected like many of us or all of us. There is no special protection. They are protected similar way as citizens are protected. Or if they felt that they did not want to go back into the communities, they were given an option to be taken to Lindela so that they can repatriated or deported back to their country of origin. I must hasten to say, out of the 457 people who were at the Che Guevara, outside the Home Affairs offices, and Home Affairs has done the work to verify whether they are legal or they have a legal standing to be in South Africa. Only 3 were found not to be legal in the country. And that's why we had to give them the option to reintegrate in the communities, because they have a legal standing. So they are not illegal immigrants in the country. Regarding the Malawian citizens at Sherwood, the Malawian government has commissioned 8 buses that will start moving their citizens today, that we would have seen. Some of our media houses have been covering. To expedite the reparation process, our government will support the efforts with 10 additional buses for the deportation of some Malawian nationals. So far, 980 Malawans have been deported from Lindela on 10 June as part of the crackdown as well. Going forward, the re-establishment of a court at Lindela will ensure that deportation from Lindela Center will be expedited. I must also emphasize here, when we look at the numbers, if you do the calculations, because when we were there, we had 5,000 people, so you needed about 84 buses. Now, with the number going to almost 7,000, you're needing almost 100 buses to be able to repatriate. And that's why we would want to call on stakeholders of business community to support government in efforts to be able to repatriate this Malawian nationals who are looking to be deported back at home. As we continue the Lindela court, we are looking at that because we do believe that it will assist. Actually, the court infrastructure is there. It just has not been used. And one of the issues that we are looking at is to resuscitate and utilize it, because it's fully functional. It's got all the equipment, it's got everything as a court. And therefore, we're looking at that engagement between Home Affairs and Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, together with the Judge President of Gauteng, has commenced and will announce once the processes have been concluded in terms of deployment for those that needs to operate that court. The work to re-establish a court is advanced stage, as I said. But again, one of the issues that we are not, for the similar work we are doing, is to establish a priority court that handles, amongst others, immigration and the issues that we deal with in terms of illicit economic activities at the ports of entry. Particularly, we will want to pilot this at AXA, at Airport OR Tambo Airport. Work has commenced in terms of the teams between AXA, Home Affairs, and Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. On the 18th, they will be doing a site visit to see, in terms of the identified site, whether it's suitable and what repurposing will need to be done. Once that work has been done, we will announce progress. But a decision between ourselves and the judiciary has been taken from justice point of view to establish that, and we're looking forward to all the parties to supporting that initiative. We do believe that it will go a long way in fighting especially organized crime and the issues of immigration that are happening at the port. It will fast track the turnaround time in concluding the matter so that those who needs to be deported can be deported, those who needs to be attended to at the ports, like many other global countries who are doing. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to Malawi, Ghana, and Nigeria are also repatriating their citizens. Amongst those who are being repatriated to their various countries, the Department of Home Affairs has found that some of them have been residing in South Africa illegally by overstaying their visa. So it's not those who are coming through the porous borders, as many people will believe. People will come with visas, will come legally through our ports of entry properly, but they overstay. For example, if a visa says you need to stay for 3 months, they stay longer, and therefore they become illegal in that regard. So we thought it's important as well to explain this part so that everybody understands what are the law that governs immigration within the country. These individuals were determined to be in the country without valid documentation authorizing their stay, and in accordance with the provision of the Immigration Act, have been formally declared undesirable persons and barred from re-entering the country for a period of 5 years. The same has been done with undocumented immigrants from other countries. We want to reiterate that only Home Affairs will be able to determine whether an individual is within the South African borders legally or not. Further, they will be able to ensure consequences follow and systems are updated, such as declaring individuals undesirable if they are found to have been in the country illegally. Furthermore, they have a duty to ensure individuals who are here illegally exit our ports of entry by facilitating temporary documentation before exit. So when you say mabahambe, when they have to get out, they have no way to get out unless Home Affairs is involved to be able to allow them for exit in terms of our border. So we are appealing again to say, let's reiterate that it's only Home Affairs as a statutory body that is allowed. And that's why the president would have explained that it's law enforcement agencies that have to take this part. But if they get out without us knowing that they were here illegally, we're not able as a government to be able to put them on a blacklist, what you can call blacklist in common knowledge, that they can't enter the country in the next 5 years. So they can come back and do as they please as well. So we want to reiterate that point, that allow law enforcement agencies to do the work, because it goes beyond what many of us would understand and know is to be done. We acknowledge that migration is a regional challenge that requires coordinated diplomatic engagements. For this reason, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation will continue to engage SADC and the foreign ministries of affected countries to coordinate reparations protocols, share operational information, and ensure that actions taken are consistent with regional commitment and mutual assistance arrangements. DECO will provide regular factual briefing to foreign missions to prevent and counter misinformation and disinformation that we have been seeing. Our government appreciates the initiatives by several African countries, including Nigeria, Ghana, and Malawi, on reparating their citizens from South Africa. Government is actively cooperating with them to facilitate the safe and orderly and voluntary repatriations of its citizens. We maintain that our immigration challenges must be addressed strictly through lawful, peaceful, and constitutional means. The IMC has developed an implementation plan, and the following work streams have been established to focus on the following. Firstly, urgent movement of borderline infrastructure, improvement of borderline infrastructure. So where there is difficulties in terms of the borderline, urgent work has to be done, so we'll commence and the IMC will monitor. Social services, that includes areas such as access to health, social services, and education. We do believe that in this area, there's a need for us to clarify what are constitutional imperatives, what are international obligations that we have, and what is allowed within the law. At times, we do find either outside government or within government, there's misinterpretation of what needs to be done. So as we go ahead, as the IMC briefs continuously, you will be clarified in this area as well. Registration of small business and informal sector. We do believe that this area needs to be strengthened and tightened up so that there's clarity in terms of the work that needs to be done in this area, and how, if an immigrant or a refugee is in the country, can or cannot participate in this area. Review of applicable processes and standard operating procedures for asylum and refugees. You would know that this area as well has started in terms of the white paper that has been done. So we are saying that there is a need for us to fast track this work and also review the processes. In addition, the Technical Committee of the IMC has set up the following work streams. So law enforcement, this is to ensure that there's law and order in the country, and those who are embarking on any activity, they're doing that within the law. Border management, efficient and monitoring of border management, and also most of the agencies that operate there to be monitored. Legal and regulatory, to look at legal areas where there are gaps, to close those, and regulations that would need to be announced. As President would have announced some of the regulatory environments such as TRN that needs to be reviewed. Economic sectors, this will involve your illicit work, will involve the issues around the SIM card registration that will fall within this area. Humanitarian welfare and social sectors, as I would have highlighted in the social services that we're working. International relations, as part of managing our brand as South Africa, but also ensuring that we do not damage relations, but also those who are within our borders operate within the laws of the Republic. Systems development and data integration, improvement of our data, communication and stakeholder engagement or management. The monitoring of the implementation of the plan will take place through weekly IMC meetings, which I convene every Friday, receiving reports from work streams and lead champions on the matters that they've been tasked to do. Furthermore, the IMC will conduct oversight visits to confirm the received reports where needed. For example, if we have tasked a work stream to do a particular work, and if that is something that we need to do, we'll go on the sites to go and see for ourselves as the IMC if that work has been done, not to rely only on the reports, but also for further understanding and engagement with those that are involved in that particular area. And we believe in terms of the work that we want to do, and we'll do the consistent media briefing to update the nation in work that has been done. We believe that this will be done in a transparent manner so that we can be accountable to the public with the work that we have been tasked to do by the head of state. The IMC in the coming week will be embarking on stakeholder engagement starting this Monday with virtual meetings with Chapter 9 and Chapter 10 institutions. This meeting will happen on Monday. On Wednesday, the IMC will meet the National House of Traditional Leaders and Khoisan communities. This also will happen virtually. We've requested that they extend the invite to all traditional leaders who are able to join the virtual meetings, not only the leadership, so that we can explain as government and communicate to all stakeholders the plans and how government is addressing the matter, and so that we can also receive feedback from these critical stakeholders. Other engagement with community stakeholders and other stakeholders will be communicated once they've been confirmed. So we're reaching out to many stakeholders consistently to be able to engage with them, receive feedback as we do our work, so that we can be able to deal with the issues, but bring everybody on board so that it's not only government that deals with this matter, but society as a whole. Government recognizes that misinformation and disinformation are among the greatest drivers of instability in our communities, and we are confronting it head on. We strongly caution the public about the spread of fake videos and images across various digital platforms, including social media. These old, staged, or heavily manipulated visuals are often part of a targeted disinformation campaign explicitly designed to incite violence, cause panic, fuel attacks on foreign nationals, and unfairly blame them for deep-seated socio-economic challenges like high employment and crime in our country. Beyond causing internal domestic friction, these malicious campaigns are intentionally orchestrated to damage South Africa's hard-earned international reputation. We acknowledge that irregular migration is an enormous challenge, and that there are concerns by section of our society, or almost many of our society and citizens. As government, we are fully aware of the impact of this challenge on our economic resources and the general strain this causes on the provision of social and economic services. All those who are protesting on our streets are within their constitutional rights to do so. We must, however, remind ourselves that constitutional rights are accompanied by obligations and responsibilities. One of this is peaceful protest and avoidance of violence and lawlessness in exercising these rights. Whatever march or protest is planned or undertaken should be within the confines of the law. Government is ready to work hand in hand with all those involved in the protest, including consistent engagement with organizers of this protest, so that we can support them. We must safeguard and protect the safety of all South African citizens and their properties. In the same vein, we want to also remind the participants of this protest that the Gatherings Act imposes a liability for all damages arising from gatherings or demonstrations on those who organize them. Our approach is guided by the non-negotiable principles that South Africa remains a country governed by the rule of law. We therefore urge South Africans to recognize and acknowledge this principle. As government, we have the sole responsibility for executing law enforcement. We have observed disturbingly that some citizens are insisting on conducting identity checks and other immigration enforcement actions. This is illegal and should stop immediately. And it can be encouraged in our country. Only the state has the responsibility to enforce immigration law and no one else. Citizens are, however, encouraged to report or alert the enforcement authorities whenever they suspect or witness acts of criminality. And sometimes there's misquotation of the law. I saw somebody was saying that Criminal Procedure as CPA Act 1977 allow you to do citizen arrest. It doesn't allow you to do victimization and intimidation. When you do that, when arrest is done, you hand over to the police. You take the person and hand over. You don't beat the people up. You don't intimidate the people. So CPA is very clear. It has to be exercised within the confines of the law. Anything else is illegal. We also need to vehemently correct the false narrative that South Africa is inherently xenophobic or unwelcoming to people or from outside our borders. South Africa has historically welcomed and continues to host people from diverse communities and countries across the globe. Our nation remains deeply committed to the African Union Agenda 2063, which seeks to promote a better, more integrated Africa for all. As a constitutional democracy, we fully comply with international migration frameworks and remain a committed signatory to numerous global conventions that promote human dignity, equality, and the rule of law. In conclusion, while the challenges of migration are complex, our path forward is guided by the Constitution and shared commitment to the rule of law. Government calls on all undocumented and illegal immigrants currently within our borders to immediately comply with our laws and present themselves to law enforcement agencies or request to be repatriated. Our authorities are working with several countries that are also voluntarily repatriating their citizens back to their countries of origin. The South African government will not tolerate the circumvention of our immigration systems and laws. We also call upon employers to refrain from transgressing immigrations and labor laws. We call on all South Africans to reject the path of vigilantism, dismiss the noise of misinformation, and to partner with government as we restore stability to our neighborhoods. Not everybody who comes from outside South Africa is illegal in our country. As part of a unified national effort, we will manage this process in a way that safeguards our sovereignty, strengthens our public institutions, and builds a safe, inclusive, and prosperous South Africa for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that statement. I think the mere fact that we have an IMC that looks at the issue of immigration shows the commitment of this government to attend to the issue. Colleagues, let me invite the questions from the House before we go to the ones online. The drill, it's simple. You'll raise your hand, we'll recognize, and there is a knob where you're seated. You press it. When it's ready, then you ask your question. And you'll introduce yourself. Let me start your hand here. 1, 2, 3. 3 hands this side. Let me go that side. 4, 5, in that order.
Thank you very much, Brownie. Thank you very much, Brownie. It's Zianda Ngobo from Newsroom Africa. Thank you very much, Minister. I suppose this will be mainly directed to the Home Affairs Minister. Is there a discussion at the moment to audit those who entered the country illegally and got the correct papers, registered, and they're registered in the system, but this was obtained unlawfully, so perhaps through a bribe, etc. So I'm listening to you speaking about those who are on Che Guevara Road, and they their papers might have been unlawful. Are there any plans to do an audit of this? And is there also an intention to increase perhaps the funding of organizations such as the Border Management Authority? And then from an international relations perspective, how far are you with conversations with other African countries? So for instance, in Durban right now, we're talking about Malawian nationals. Their president is actually currently in the country. So, I mean, I suppose that would have been a great opportunity as well. So just status updates on that. And then perhaps Minister Kubai, insofar as, you know, the messaging from the IMC around, you know, dissuading them from being part of vigilantism, and especially the social media, why does the government, and in particular the IMC, believe that, you know, these marches are gaining so much resonance in our communities? Because it would seem, from my perspective at least, that the horse has already bolted. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, it's a Sunday. I allow questions. President Doctor, it should be read and then the speech.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gwena Mashale from the Sowetan. This is directed to Minister Leon Schreiber. I wanted to understand the database in regards to inspectors on the ground. I mean, we're hearing over 40,000 migrants since the 1st of January. How is the department handling the capacity of actually inspecting the amount of documented migrants within the system and those who are not on the system itself? I think my next question is also then directed to Minister Kubai. In regards to, you mentioned SADC, is the department and the committee also going to be conversating with the African Union itself? Because we're not only dealing with countries at the Southern Hemisphere, but entirely the whole continent is currently at this point, I don't know if you've seen social media, is currently against South Africa. We've had also some sort of leaders also in Nigeria and other countries also asking South African leaders to speak about what is happening within the country. So are those engagements ongoing? And I think that's all from me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koke from EMCA. I've got 5 questions, but I will be very brief. One of them takes from my colleague. I want to ask if it's possible, perhaps, to share the breakdown of, you know, the nationalities that have been searched and their documentations and stuff, because there is a perception that only those of African descent and origin appear or seem to be the targets. Are you focusing on other nationals as well from other continents? If you have that breakdown, we'll appreciate it. You keep on emphasizing the point, Minister, that rightfully so, Home Affairs should be at the center of dealing with this mess. But it's Home Affairs that is responsible for this mess. What has changed now from Home Affairs?